The morning flight from Atlanta to New York was supposed to be exciting for 12-year-old Malik and Maya, twin siblings flying for the first time without their parents. They were smiling, chatting about seeing their grandmother, their dreadlocks tied neatly, just like their mom always made sure. But everything changed the moment a flight attendant walked down the aisle and stopped beside them, with a sharp tone and a forced smile. She claimed their hair was too messy and unfit for passengers in premium seats. Before anyone could react, she reached for a pair of scissors from the service cart. The cabin fell silent. The twins froze, their eyes wide in disbelief as strands of their hair fell to the floor. A nearby passenger recorded the scene, unable to believe what was happening in front of everyone. Within minutes, the video spread across social media, stirring outrage across the country. What the flight attendant didn't know was who the twins' mother was. Jordan Ellis, a powerful CEO known for her calm strength and unshakable sense of justice. When she got the call mid-meeting, her voice went quiet, but her eyes told another story. The airline had no idea what was coming next. By the time her private jet touched down that evening, every major news outlet was already waiting. The question wasn't whether she would respond, it was how far she would go to make sure no one ever humiliated her children like that again. Jordan Ellis had built her career on discipline, fairness, and integrity. As the founder of a major tech company, she was used to solving crises, but nothing compared to the sinking feeling of hearing her children sobbing on the phone that afternoon. Malik's voice trembled as he tried to explain what happened, while Maya could barely speak between tears. Jordan didn't raise her voice. She just listened, taking in every word until the line went silent. Then she opened her laptop and began gathering details. Flight number, crew names, and the video that had already gone viral. By evening, the clip had been shared millions of times, sparking a national conversation about respect, discrimination, and accountability. People demanded answers from the airline, but their official statement only made things worse. They called it a misunderstanding, suggesting the flight attendant acted out of concern for safety. That line hit Jordan harder than she expected. Concern for safety? Over her children's hair. Inside her office, she stood by the window overlooking the city lights, her mind racing. She wasn't just a mother now, she was a woman on a mission. She called her legal team, her public relations head, and even the airline's board chair. No one had seen her this calm before, and that calm was exactly what made people nervous. Somewhere in that same city, the flight attendant sat in her apartment, scrolling through the comments, flooding her feed. Each one made her realize she might have crossed a line she could never step back from. By the next morning, the story had reached every major news outlet. Reporters camped outside the airline's headquarters, demanding a response. Employees whispered in the hallways, wondering what would happen now that the CEO mother of the twins was involved. Behind the scenes, the airline's board scrambled to contain the damage, holding emergency meetings and drafting public statements that never sounded sincere enough. Jordan's office became the center of quiet chaos. Her phone rang nonstop. Journalists, lawyers, advocacy groups, even other parents sharing their own stories. She didn't speak publicly yet. She was waiting, gathering facts, letting the world see the full picture before she made her move. The tension built with every hour of silence. Her team advised caution, but she knew that silence could be powerful too. Meanwhile, Malik and Maya were home with their grandmother, avoiding the cameras parked outside. They were still shaken, unsure how to handle the sudden attention. Their school friends texted them constantly, some offering support, others just curious. Maya spent hours watching the video that changed everything, replaying the moment that made her feel small. Malik, however, began sketching, drawing planes, clouds, and a flight attendant with no face. At the same time, the flight attendant's world started collapsing. She'd been suspended pending investigation, and reporters had already found her name. Her neighbors avoided her, and she couldn't leave her apartment without feeling eyes on her. Still, she clung to one belief that somehow, she could explain herself. But deep down, she feared Jordan Ellis wasn't done yet. 3 days later, the world was watching. The airline announced a press conference to address recent concerns, but rumors spread that Jordan Ellis would be attending in person. Cameras filled the lobby, flashes flickering like lightning as reporters waited for her arrival. Inside, executives shifted nervously, rehearsing apologies that no one believed would be enough. The atmosphere was thick with fear, the kind that comes before a storm. Jordan's car pulled up outside the glass doors. She stepped out, dressed in calm authority, her expression unreadable. Every camera turned toward her. She didn't wave or smile. She just walked, her heels echoing through the marble floor. The same woman who had built an empire from nothing was now about to face the people who had hurt her children. The silence was electric as she entered the room, holding a single folder, the evidence she'd gathered. Meanwhile, the twins watched from home. Malik sat on the couch clutching his sketchbook, while Maya held her grandmother's hand. They didn't fully understand what was happening, but they knew their mom was fighting for them. Across the city, the suspended flight attendant sat in her dark apartment, the TV playing on mute. Her phone buzzed with calls she didn't answer. She saw Jordan's face appear on the screen, standing behind the podium, and her stomach dropped. The CEO paused, looking out over the crowd of reporters. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, In a calm voice that carried through every microphone in the room, she began. Jordan's voice was steady as she began outlining what had really happened on that flight. She didn't shout or accuse, she simply played a short clip on the large screen behind her. The video, captured from another passenger's phone, showed not just the moment the flight attendant cut Malik's and Maya's throat, but what happened right after a second crew member stepping in, whispering something, then quickly walking away as if nothing had occurred. The audience gasped. It wasn't just one person's poor decision anymore, it looked like a cover-up. Reporters started shouting questions, and flashes filled the room. The airline CEO, seated just a few feet away, shifted uncomfortably, realizing the situation had just turned into a full-blown scandal. Jordan waited for silence before revealing the next twist. The airline had reached out to her privately before this press conference, offering a confidential settlement in exchange for her silence. She had declined. The tension in the room rose so high that even the air felt heavy. Jordan paused, then said quietly, "This isn't about money, it's about accountability." The crowd erupted in murmurs, some cheering, others stunned by the revelation. At home, Malik and Maya's grandmother turned up the volume, her hand trembling. The twins stared at the screen, watching their mother stand taller than anyone else in that room. But even as Jordan spoke, one of her assistants rushed toward the stage, whispering something urgent in her ear, news that made her expression change instantly. Whatever she'd just heard, it was clear the fight was far from over. Jordan's eyes narrowed slightly as her assistant whispered the news. She looked toward the audience, her calm expression tightening for the first time. The room fell silent again as she stepped away from the microphone, took a deep breath, and said, "There's something new I just learned, and it changes everything." The crowd leaned in. She held up a printed email that had just been forwarded to her team. It came from an internal airline source, a flight supervisor revealing that the flight attendant hadn't acted alone. She had been following an unspoken company guideline, encouraging staff to enforce uniform passenger presentation standards, a vague policy that quietly targeted certain hairstyles and appearances. Gasps rippled through the room. This wasn't about one employee anymore, it was about a systemic problem. The airline executives froze, realizing the story had just reached a point they could no longer control. Jordan turned to face them. "You can suspend one person," she said, "but this culture came from the top." Her voice echoed across every news channel, every social feed. At that moment, the airline CEO stood up, attempting to speak, but the microphones were already capturing Jordan's final words. "If you can't protect families like mine, you don't deserve their trust." Hours later, the board announced the immediate resignation of top executives, and flights were temporarily grounded for review. But the twist came that night. Jordan received an anonymous call from the same insider who leaked the email. The voice whispered, "You think you've seen the truth? But this goes higher than you know." Jordan sat in her office that night, the city lights flickering through the glass as she replayed the phone call in her mind. The voice had been calm, almost too calm, hinting that there were people within the airline who had tried to hide the policy for years. She knew this fight wasn't only about her children anymore, it was about every family that had faced quiet prejudice and been told to stay silent. Over the next week, investigations opened across multiple departments. Former employees came forward with their own stories, confirming what Jordan had suspected. The airline issued a public apology and began rewriting its entire code of conduct, this time with Jordan and other community leaders helping to shape it. The suspended flight attendant, now realizing how she had been influenced by the system, released a statement of her own, an apology directly to Malik and Maya. Jordan didn't respond publicly. Instead, she focused on her children, who were slowly beginning to smile again. She helped Maya braid her new twists and watched Malik sketch another plane, this one with their family name painted proudly on the tail. When the story finally began to fade from the headlines, people still remembered one thing: a mother's strength can change more than just a single moment. It can shift an entire system. As Jordan closed her laptop that night, she whispered softly to herself, "They took our peace for a minute, but we took back something much greater: respect."